welcome to the Bar Exam Drills Predictions podcast. We'll start with the MEE first because I did a spreadsheet. I'm Sando, one of the founders of Bar Exam Drills, and I have my friend Walt Bernard. Is this all your offices here? One in King of Prussia? Is that it?
Yeah.
And one in South Commons?
South Commons is just a street. That's in Pittsburgh. So the King of Prussia, that's Philly area.
And licensed in 4 jurisdictions, Pennsylvania, Georgia. I saw Georgia was more recent, New York and New Jersey. I put in the notes here with a question mark. I don't know if you want to talk about it or not, but
we'll talk about it later.
Okay, so
Yeah.
not a big deal. Do you want to mention the lawsuit with?
I think it actually would be good to have another podcast. That might be a podcast in of itself.
Yeah, totally.
I think that would be good conversation for about constitutional law and criminal procedure. So I think that discussion and judicial immunity, I think that would be a whole podcast within itself. Yeah.
And I don't know when you're allowed to talk about it too, like when it's like next year or what?
What we're going to do is do another amendment to the complaint, but a lot of it is on the public domain. So I think that I could talk about most of it. 90% of what happened, that's factual. It's on the record. That's not confidential. I think that we could talk about that.
Okay, we'll talk about that a little later. If anybody wants to Google it, see what we're alluding to, they can. But we'll probably do an episode on that later. And then it could also be bar prep, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just wanted to say to the viewers that these are just predictions, right? They're totally just predictions. And how I did this spreadsheet was it's 2 kind of data points. It's what they've tested the most going back in time, and then also what they tested most recently. So you have 2 different data points that you have to reconcile. So I sorted it Civ Pro first because that's the most tested since February 2016. And then so the numbers represent the actual question number. So that was Q4 for July, and that's been tested the most since 2016, but it was just tested 3 times in a row. So I kind of don't see that happening again. Contracts looks pretty good, right? They tested it 9 times, and it hasn't been tested in the last year. Secure transactions, that's pretty low. They just tested it twice in a row. So, and historically, they've never done it 3 times in a row there. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it really looks like they're, at least we'll skip another time. For contract, they've never done more than 3 times in a row either that I've seen, where they've skipped it.
Yes. It seems like contracts is definitely
going to be on it, right?
Yeah.
Evidence, it looks up there too, but so I guess I could write down here contracts.
Yeah, I would say contracts is the
number 1.
Yes.
So far. And then evidence is somewhere here. I wouldn't say it's like up there. Let's see. Corporations has skipped twice, so I would say that's higher. And then I could shift these around. Property? What do you think about property? I think that's...
property looks like when they do test it, they test it 2 times in a row. So yeah, property is a possibility. I think another thing with predictions is a lot of times you look at what has happened within the last year, the national news, and those are topics that tend to come up. If you notice, we're coming out of COVID, so you had a lot of real estate, commercial, landlord, tenant. So I think that's an area that is a hot topic in contracts and real estate. So
yes. With the eviction stuff, you mean, and all that kind of stuff?
Yes, eviction as far as like residential leases, a lot of property and contract issues overlap. So I could see contracts really coming up in the next exam.
Trust was just tested, and then it was tested in July and then February. So I think trust is definitely not on there. Partnerships, I don't think so. And then family law, not for a while now. So I think family law is up there too.
Yeah, I would definitely be prepared for family law. It hasn't been tested in a while, and it looks to be ripe for testing. Looks like the last time it was tested was July 21.
Yeah.
That's a long drought. I would say family law is definitely up there.
So there's going to be 6. So I was thinking, we do a top 6, maybe do a little wild card underneath. So torts was just tested. Agency, I think that one, because partnership, I think agency is up there. Crim pro, crim law, I would say probably not. Maybe crim law. But then we're starting to put like everything on here.
Right.
Crim law and con law look. And then I saw this one obscure thing from February 2016. It was like this healthcare kind of law thing, durable power of attorney. attorney. I haven't seen it for then. It's just February 2016. Maybe going back, it was tested more. Maybe it's something that they don't test anymore.
I think that a topic that could come up because that would fall under with wills and trusts. It's typically when you're
Yeah.
drafting a will or doing a trust, power of attorney goes in conjunction with wills and trusts and fiduciary duties. So a hot topic in law as well coming out of the pandemic. Then a lot of elderly care. So you have a lot of people who have needed more wills and trusts. So I could see that as, continue to be tested. So power of attorney might possibly come up.
Right. Okay, cool. Those are the predictions. Now let's hone in on contracts a bit, if you don't mind, Walt.
Okay.
I'm just going to list off what they've done in contracts for the past few administrations. So as far as contracts, the last time was a common law. It wasn't UCC, it was just common law. So some kind of, I think, services thing. It was about the winery. It was July 2022. The third is an essay outline that the app does that I'll put on the screen. Asking for your opinion. Would it be better to delve into these topics more, or would it be better to skip to the other predictions of California, and then maybe we could do separate podcasts, like we could do a contracts one and just talk about. I think the way to do it is to do an overview one.
Yeah, I think so.
So maybe forget about this for now, and let's just look into California.
Okay. All right. So I guess the final prediction for the MEE. So what are you saying?
So the top six that we readily wrote down. So it would be contracts, corporations, evidence, property, wills, and family law. And then the four kind of wild cards is agency, prim law, con law, and healthcare. That is if healthcare is still tested. I have this feeling it's not even tested anymore. I gotta look into that further, but
I think the healthcare is like a subset of will.
in the actual essay itself, I could send you the outline of it.
Yeah.
It's about he pulled life support on his uncle or something like that, and it was was this proper? It did have this Slayer statute kind of element to it that did have to do with, because he did just stand to inherit something after he pulled the life support. So yeah, I see where you're going.
Yeah, when you think about power of attorney, that all has to do with fiduciary duty standing in for somebody. When you don't properly do the rights under the power of attorney, you're not looking at the best interests, then that's where you come into issues. So that all encompasses wills and trusts.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And they did hit it in that essay.
And I also think when you're looking at the topic of fiduciary duty, that's going to cover partnerships, that's going to cover agency. It overlaps with a lot of subjects. I think that's a solid prediction.
And disclaimer, we could be totally wrong. It happens, but the butterfly image is looking like this is going to be it.
Yeah. The other thing I will say is what I've noticed is when it comes to constitutional law, when there are areas that are more recent, like within the last 6 months, a lot of change in constitutional law, there's cases that come down. There's been a lot as far as freedom of religion, the Establishment Clause. So I've noticed that the bar examiners tend to stay away from those topics when they're so recent. If a new ruling comes down within the past 6 months in an area of con law, then it's more likely than not that's not going to be tested.
I agree. I don't think if you're testing people, you don't want to open up a can of worms for yourself and for the examiners. Right. I think we could do separate episodes later on covering these more in depth. Yeah. But I think just to do an overview, good. I guess I just want to say stay tuned for the in-depth for all of them. Whatever Walt is willing to go in depth with, we'll do that. Thanks for watching our predictions video. Reach out if you want to opine or comment. Go in the comments and let us know how we got it wrong, or we're going to get it wrong. If it's after the exam, you could let us know how we're totally wrong too.
All right. Thanks, guys.